So let's try and make sense of the visit of the Afghan Taliban foreign minister to India. Joining me on the special broadcast, Lieutenant General Ravi Sahni, former Deputy Chief of the Army Staff, former Director General of India's military intelligence. Also with me is Ambassador Rakesh Sood, India's former ambassador to Afghanistan. In a moment from now, we'll be joined by Michael Kugelman, Senior Fellow, Asia Pacific Foundation and former Director of the South Asia Institute at the Wilson Center, and John Rosamondo, Geopolitical and National Security Strategist, joining us from Washington, D.C. I first want to cut across to my colleague Pranay Upadhyay, who's tracking these developments closely. Pranay, what do we expect from this meeting? How is this being viewed in India, the Taliban foreign minister's visit to India, and that issue about flag? Will it be the Taliban flag or the Afghan flag?
You know, Gaurav, flag doesn't matter, because if you see the history and trajectory of recent engagement between India and Afghanistan, flag never mattered. The thing which matters is the meeting. This meeting is taking place, and this meeting is taking place especially between India and Afghanistan. The Afghan Foreign Minister, Acting Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaki is in Delhi. Especially in context of Pakistan, you mentioned about these things, and we were discussing that, you know, how the Faz Hamid, the guy who was taking, you know, his tea in Serena Hotel of Kabul, is now in house arrest, he's facing court-martial. While on the other side, those who have written off India from the Afghan map, those who have, called it that India miserably lost. Now it is this is the answer by India. This is a testament of real politics played by India. Definitely, what we can expect from the tomorrow's meeting, many projects of cooperation are already there. How to fasten those projects, how India can expand its presence in Kabul, because currently we have a mission there, but we have to find out a way that how we can work without, if we have to recognize the Afghan regime, Afghan government, then what would be the modalities, how we can deepen our cooperation and have a diplomatic engagement. Let me bring in
Ambassador Sood into this conversation. Why is this visit of the Taliban foreign minister so crucial, sir? Are we recognizing the Taliban? Is that important? In your view, why is this visit so important?
Gaurav, thank you very much. First of all, let me just say that we have seen signs of a gradual shift in terms of engaging with the Taliban for the last 3 years. These have been very small steps, and I, for one, have long advised, right, more than 5 years ago, more than 6 years ago, when the rest of the world was engaging with the Taliban. You know, the Taliban set up their international office in Doha in 2013. And whether it was the US, whether it was China, whether it was Iran, whether it was Turkey, whether it was Saudi Arabia, Germans, Norwegians, the French, they were all making a beeline to engage with the Taliban. But somehow we took an ideological view about it, and we did not engage with the Taliban. We said we will only engage with the government in Kabul, and that was at that time President Ashraf Ghani's government. And so therefore, we ended up in a situation where when the Taliban took over on 15th of August 2021, we ended up in a situation where we had no confidence in the security situation, and we closed down the embassy. I mean, it was a disastrous decision. To compound that disaster, we also cancelled all the visas that had been issued. So I'm glad that there is, instead of ideology, that there is an element of pragmatism that is at least now visible in terms of dealing with Pakistan, dealing with Afghanistan, in terms of engaging, because the geography is not going to change. Afghanistan is going to remain where it is. India is where it is. We have a Pakistan in the middle. So merely to bring it around to saying that, oh, just because Afghanistan has problems with Pakistan, therefore we will go and hug the Afghan foreign minister. I mean, tomorrow, by that token, if tomorrow Afghanistan makes up with Pakistan, then what are we going to do? We are going to disinvite him. That's not the way foreign policy works.
Absolutely.
And so, therefore, what I would suggest is that this is neither a breakthrough in the sense that we are not going to give recognition to Afghanistan. I don't think so. Yes, we will listen to what Foreign Minister Muttaki has to say because we belong to the same region and we have had a lot of historical ties with Afghanistan, cultural ties, and so on. We also have a lot of stakes in Afghanistan in terms of security. So we'll listen to what Mr. Muttaki has to say about how he's dealing with not just Pakistan, with Iran, with Central Asian countries, and so on.
Okay, Jail
It's
Sani. Okay, let me bring in Jail Sani to this conversation. India was seen to be closer either to the elected government or at one point of time to the Northern Alliance, and now we're also engaging with Taliban. What's the message that India is sending out? What's the message that goes out to the world, sir?
The message which goes out is that Afghanistan is our neighbor, and irrespective of any political dispensation in this country, we are got to have close relationship with this particular country and the people there, because you must remember that they are a close neighbor, and we would always like stability to prevail in Afghanistan, because any instability there impacts us directly. And another fact is that we are also have a relationship with them, a close relationship, people to people relationship. And our relationship has been continuous, except with some breaks, with irrespective of whether there was a monarchy, there was a communist rule there, and of course, when the Taliban 1-0 were there, again, there was some sort of a tenuous relationship. We had a relationship with the Republic. And now, of course, with Taliban, we are engaging, and we should engage very actively because the people of Afghanistan are important. We are always been their first responder. And we have to make sure that by engaging with them, we make sure that any forces which are inimical to our security are not given shelter in that country. And which we are getting lots of assurances from this particular group, that is Taliban.
Very interesting, because there was a time that we saw Taliban work in tandem with Lashkar-e-Taiba in Pakistan's ISI to target the Indian embassy. IC-814 hijack was taken to Kandahar. Our mission was targeted in Herat, also our consulates. Michael Kugelman, few understand the mindset of the Pakistani elite better than you on this panel. Your reading of Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif on Pakistan TV saying that Afghans were always with India yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me, Gaurav. Mr. Asa sometimes says things that don't appear to be completely accurate. I'm not sure about that. I mean, I think we have to keep in mind the broader context that Pakistan, its relations with the Taliban are very strained. You know, that long time marriage between the Pakistani security establishment and the Taliban is now very much over, and of course, the main reason is because of the issue of TTP. So I don't think we should place too much stock in that comment. But I make a broader point as well that I don't think we should not overstate the Pakistan factor in this calculus. My sense is that India and the Taliban would have been prepared to explore cautious levels of engagement, even if the relationship between Pakistan and the Taliban were better. I mean, it's quite clear that the Taliban have a lot of good reasons to want to engage with India. The Taliban, they want friends, particularly in the neighborhood. They want legitimacy. The Taliban know that there is this long legacy of India providing significant levels of humanitarian support and in the past development support as well. The Taliban wants that continue. And of course, for India, you know, it has that legacy of close friendship with Afghanistan to draw on, even if you have the Taliban in government now. And I would argue that India, this was mentioned before, India has concerns about terrorism risks emanating from Afghanistan, including those posed by Pakistani groups like LET, JEM. And I suspect that New Delhi would think that it's easier to convey and advance those interests, convey those concerns to the Taliban if it has a friendly relationship, even if an informal one as well. Now, certainly the fact that Pakistan's relations with the Taliban have blown up, that provides an opportunity for India to try to take things further, to capitalize on the freed up diplomatic space to engage more with the Taliban, and perhaps to get some type of strategic victory by enabling itself to move closer to Afghanistan at a moment when Pakistan is on the defensive.
Okay. And John Rosmundo, how is the US likely to view India, China, Russia, and even Pakistan voting along with the Taliban against Donald Trump wanting to take back the Bagram airbase? And how is the US likely to view the Taliban foreign minister's visit to India?
Well, I think the United States has kind of a mixed approach with the Taliban. I mean, we've been giving the Taliban at least $15 billion since the end of the war in September of 21. I mean, the CIA has worked closely with the Taliban, allegedly against ISIS. But the thing that we have to look at is the fact that more people are being trained in terrorist camps sponsored by the Taliban than ever before, tens of thousands. That could potentially be a threat to India. I mean, India's worked to develop close relations with the Taliban since 21. But I think at least openly, the United States government probably will not be too thrilled with the Taliban foreign minister going to New Delhi, but the United States is all over the map when it comes to the Taliban.
Yep. Jalsani, Pakistan always dreamt of that strategic depth in Afghanistan. In fact, I want to play out that image of General Faiz Hamid, then DG ISI, when Taliban was taking over Kabul. Faiz Hamid was at the Serena Hotel sipping tea or coffee, claiming Pakistan was in control. I hope you're able to play out that image of General Faiz Hamid, DG ISI. That's the image that I'm talking about. And now the Taliban foreign minister is in India, and there are reports that year on year, Pakistan is losing about 600 plus soldiers along the Afpak border in KPK, Baluchistan. Your view, why is Pakistan fretting over Taliban's foreign minister in India, and does it have wider ramifications for Pakistan?
You see, the point is that Pakistan has always used Afghanistan for their own purposes. And that is something, and they always have underestimated the quest for freedom as far as Afghanistan is concerned. The Durand Line itself is a permanent sort of a fissure between the two countries. And somehow or the other, the independent nature of Afghanistan has not been understood by the Pakistanis. They thought that they'll continue to bribe them. And once they got into Kabul in 2021, you see the images of the DG ISI, there were celebrations. It almost appeared that he was trying to convey that their writ is going to run in Kabul, and they would be running their foreign policy, they'll be running their defense policy. So that is where I think they went spectacularly wrong, because Afghans have got their own mind, and whatever you might say, they have got their own reasons to have relationship with the different countries, and I think they're very fiercely independent. So to Pakistan's calculations that they will be able to undermine that and to be able to use them as a tool, as I think failed miserably. And now the way their defense minister is speaking, it's very difficult to take that defense minister seriously, because he comes out with such weird thinking. Yes. I mean, they are the same people who always thought that once the Taliban return to Kabul, then their writ will run and they'll twist them in whatever direction they want to. So I think, in a way, it has come out very vividly that the Taliban who have come to power in this country have their own views. Actually, their views are exactly like views of any other dispensation which has ruled Kabul.
Okay. And they don't accept the Durand Line at all, which is Pakistan's worst nightmare.
They don't accept the Durand Line at all. And the Pakistanis would like to make that into a permanent border, which I think is a wish which will never get fulfilled.
Okay. Ambassador Sood, but India-Afghanistan relationship, what is it that Afghanistan wants from India, would be seeking from India, and what are we in a position to give them?
I think that in terms of Foreign Minister Muttaki's wish list, it would consist of first and foremost visas. Second, beginning of the development assistance, which got stopped in 2021. Third, exchange of ambassadors. Fourth, diplomatic recognition. And fifth, perhaps a closer high-level political engagement. Now, how much of this is going to emerge at the end of this particular visit? I would be hesitant to predict, but my guess is that out of all these things, it's going to be pretty limited. I don't see the exchanges moving to a high-level political exchanges. I don't see, frankly, diplomatic recognition. I don't see even an exchange of ambassadors.
Okay.
Because right now we don't really have an idea of the security environment. I mean, how do we undertake assistance projects? We had 4 consulates in Afghanistan.
Yes.
When we were engaging in an extensive economic assistance program with hundreds of assistance projects all over the country. We also had a lot of, we used to give visas in large numbers for Afghan patients who used to come for treatment to India. We canceled all those visas. You see, first thing is that we reacted in a very knee-jerk fashion in 2021 because we had not engaged with the Taliban. So now this is a beginning of a turn back. Now, whether this is going to be a 180-degree turn,
Okay.
I don't think so. I think foreign policy moves gradually. And my guess is that this will be the beginning of a process of where we start re-engaging with Afghanistan, with the new regime in Afghanistan, and then see how it goes forward.
The security is one very important aspect that you raise. Michael Kugelman, the Chabahar port sanctions by the US, if they're intended to impact Iran, they adversely impact India and Afghanistan. So what key outcomes do you expect from the visit of the Afghan foreign minister to India?
Yeah, I mean, like Ambassador Sood, I wouldn't overstate the deliverables that we can expect. I think this is really an engagement that's grounded in very pragmatic considerations, and that entails India wanting to convey to the Taliban foreign minister that there is an interest in engagement in perhaps exploring some level of economic cooperation. But I think that there'll be some asks that probably will not be answered, so to speak, in the sense that you asked before what the Taliban's looking to get out of this. I suspect that one thing the Taliban wants is to be able to eventually staff the Afghan embassy in New Delhi, which is obviously a very difficult choice for New Delhi to make. That's not the type of thing. There's not going to be a decision made on that in this case. But I suspect that they'll commit to keep talking, to keep engaging, and to discuss issues like visas and things like that. This is going to continue to keep up. And I suspect that the Indian side would want to convey to the Taliban foreign minister that it is concerned about certain security, terrorism related issues in Afghanistan, and it hopes that the Taliban will be receptive to those concerns. But yeah, still a lot of uncertainty about where things are going to go. I agree. I do not think that India is going to extend diplomatic recognition to the Taliban. I simply don't see that happening. But it is notable that we've seen over the last few months an escalation in engagement, more high level. This is pretty high level for the foreign minister to come to New Delhi. What comes after that? Does the prime minister get involved in any type of engagement? I don't know. Something to watch, though.
John Rosmundo, Afghanistan would also like to see more of their goods get access to the Indian market, Indian assistance in healthcare, in infrastructure development. energy requirements in Afghanistan is what we are being told. But do you see a wider impact of this, and especially in Afghanistan, ensuring that its territory is not used as strategic depth, especially at a time when Pakistan's ISI is getting Lashkar-e-Taiba and Al-Qaeda to operate with Islamic State Khorasan to target the Taliban?
Well, the thing is that if you look closely, the Taliban, like I said before, is operating Al Qaeda camps, and actually it works pretty closely with ISIS-K. I mean, in Afghanistan. So I think that the Taliban wants infrastructure. It needs it after decades of war. However, whether or not it can succeed in being a partner with India remains to be seen.
Okay. Ambassador Sood, there are those who say that India should look at the bigger picture, including how Taliban treat their own people, how they treat minorities, how they treat women. Should that be a part of India's engagement, or let them handle their own internal affairs? And should India's assistance, if at all, come with strings attached, including how they treat minorities and women?
I think we have never made human rights and issues like that as part of foreign policy conditionalities. It is certainly significant that if 50% of the population of Afghanistan doesn't have rights, cannot work, cannot be educated, then clearly it is a hurdle in Afghanistan's own development. So I think perhaps this is something that we can talk about. We can provide them with examples from India about women's empowerment and all the rest of it. But I doubt very much if this is something that we are going to take and make this a conditionality as some Western countries tend to do, but then forget it when it suits their interests.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Jel Sani, in the light of Taliban's recent condemnation of Pakistan's state-sponsored terror in India, including the Pahalgam attack and that Moscow format, the opposition to US Bagram base, does that help India's counter-terrorism strategy? Does that help isolate terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Pakistan's ISI?
Exactly, it does. And as I think the ambassador has said and the other two panelists have said, I think we have got a lot of the way we are tackling, the way we are engaging with Taliban, we are not going overboard, and we are doing it in a very systematic fashion. And all these points you have said will keep coming. But we should and we will refrain from quantification, because their internal policies are something which they have to decide. We can always give example of our country, but we can't force this down. And as Ambassador Sood has said, those of the Western powers which talk about the human rights are the ones which violate them with impunity. But when it comes to lecturing, they go absolutely whole hog. So we will tackle this Taliban engagement, I think, in a very systematic fashion and a very mature fashion. We have got a people-to-people connection, which of course requires to be enhanced. And of course, the visas, as we have talked about, and that we will do. And whatever they require, we will see as to whether it is feasible. And we will not declare like their DG ISI in 2021 that they
Yes.
have got a victory. It's an engagement with a neighbor. It's an important neighbor which has got its own peculiar ethos, and they are minding. I mean, they are doing it in their own way. We'll try and influence it. There are so many projects in that country which I have seen, and I think Ambassador Sood has seen, which we have
Yes.
helped, and we have continued to do that. And you must remember also that we have continued to give them humanitarian aid, irrespective of
Yes.
our relationship with Taliban. For example, wheat, the biscuits, to the children, the medicines. I mean, our doctors. So we have continued with our, what do you call, relationship in a very calibrated fashion. We have not tried to milk it, but definitely
Yes.
we would require that their territory is not used by the terrorists who are against our interests. And
And
that I think we are doing. How this relationship progresses, I think it depends on many factors. And we also are very clear that it may not happen tomorrow, but it will
Yes.
happen very gradually. So there will be no celebration as it is. It's a neighbor, it's a close
Yeah,
neighbor.
absolutely.
We've got
And Michael
civilization.
Kugelman, how do you see this information that's coming in about ISKP being helped by Pakistan's ISI along with Lashkar-e-Taiba to counter Taliban in Afghanistan? Does this mean that there'll be more tension along the AFPAC border, along the Durand Line?
I think so because the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, there is a
Okay.
trouble, and that is
Yes.
something which is required to be sorted out by the Pakistanis themselves.
Which
You see,
clearly they will only escalate that. But can I just quickly get Michael Kugelman also to respond to that? Michael Kugelman?
Yeah, I don't know about this allegation of this allegation that's been noted. I mean, I think that Pakistan has enough problems on its hands with the Taliban issue, and now there's increasing buzz that in due course we could actually see some type of Pakistani military operation in Afghanistan, counterterrorism operation to target TTP, which every day Pakistani security forces are getting really hit hard on the border with Afghanistan. I think that's what
Yes.
Pakistan's focus is right now, to try to figure out how to deal with that problem. It doesn't have any solutions. And clearly, that could have pretty significant stability implications if there were to be a conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan.
And if Pakistani military Ambassador Sood was to carry out a military operation in Afghanistan against TTP, that would actually set the Durand Line on fire, would it, sir?
Well, yes, the Durand Line is a line. It is not a boundary. It is not a border. So we know that. I think insofar as symbolism is concerned, what we have to see tomorrow is what kind of a flag is used.
Yes.
Because I would be curious about what kind of a flag is used, because normally foreign ministers, they have flags when they sit across the table from each other. As this meeting will take place in Hyderabad House, there will be a flag behind them when they address a press conference, which I don't know if they will, but presumably they will. But it would be interesting to see, because we have so far, we have used the flag of the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan. The
Yes.
old flag, which was
The old flag.
the old flag, which became the 2001 flag after the Taliban were removed. Now, the Taliban have a different flag.
The
Now,
white colored
are
one.
we
Yeah.
going to agree to that flag being there? Will External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar stand in front of that flag when he addresses the joint press conference, if there is one? I think that
Interesting. So last
perhaps,
time I believe there was no flag for neither side. Will there be one
I
next
know,
time?
yes, but this
That's a
is
very
this is a
interesting
foreign
take.
ministerial meeting, which is,
Yes.
so there is a different level. And we have received him as a foreign minister with all the Hyderabad House and all the whistles and bells that go with that. So I think perhaps, but then again, while I'm sure all of the media analysts will read much more into it, perhaps it will be just one more little signal.
Well,
And we'll interpret that
I'll probably
tomorrow.
have you back and we'll discuss that tomorrow. But indications are, perhaps there will be no flag either ways. Either ways, we'll be tracking that story very closely. To all my guests, many thanks. Biggest takeaways on India-UK partnership from this point on. Both countries need each other, and perhaps equally, if not one needing the other more. Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar joins me on this broadcast. Pranay Upadhyay, my colleague, stays with me on this broadcast. Ambassador Sajanhar, your key takeaway: will Ceta ratification deliver on the trade ambitions?
Yes, thank you very much, Gaurav. That is what is definitely expected because, if you look at the contours of CETA, of the free trade agreement that has been entered into between the two sides, I think all the adjectives, all the superlative words that have been used for this, that it's a game changer, unprecedented, I think this CETA definitely merits that because this is the biggest trade agreement that India has ever signed with any other country. This is the biggest trade agreement that the United Kingdom has signed after it left the European Union after Brexit in 2020. You just look at some of the figures, and I'll sort of, go very quickly over them. 99% of the goods that are going from India to the United Kingdom will be free of duty, will be tariff free, no tariffs on that, no duty. 90% of the goods that are coming into India from the United Kingdom will also have no. Now, both these countries, because some of these arguments that are made that, FTAs have not done well for India. You look at ASEAN, you look at South Korea, Japan, etc. Basically the point is that those are economies with whom India competes. This is an economy which is a complementary economy. And today we have $56 billion of bilateral trade. India has a positive balance of trade. India has a surplus balance of trade. And it is expected to increase to twice $110 billion. The other aspect is, in terms of the contents of this agreement, it's not trade in goods. It's not only trades in services. It's not IPRs only. It introduces new elements. Government procurement, which is a huge sector in India. Never, I have negotiated for India in the WTO, in the Uruguay round, later on with Thailand, with ASEAN, with EU. And I know that these are no-go areas, government procurement, environment, labor. But India has decided to go in that direction. So I am very hopeful, I'm very sanguine that the results are going to be very positive.
Okay, but should there be delays in parliamentary approval? Would it stall job creations? There are thousands projected in the UK. Pranay, market access, how quickly is this likely to be implemented, overcoming whatever domestic hurdles that may be there? What is the biggest headline in your view?
I think, Gaurav, that is the reason behind why UK Prime Minister decided to visit India ahead of the crucial union budget, which is likely to be presented in UK Parliament in November 2026, and especially after the Q1 and Q2 results, which did not come very encouragingly for the Keir Starmer government. And that's why he has come to India with a large entourage of business people. And across the spectrum of the UK economy, he's decided to come to India, the various universities. But let us try and break it down, that what did India get out of this visit? Because as UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said, that this is a two-parter thing. So the first phase was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's July visit to United Kingdom, and now he has come to India. So in terms of the Indian gains, definitely 9 UK universities, if they are coming to India, they definitely see India as a big market, and this is certainly a gain for common people, those who aspire to study in UK universities. The education will become affordable, and especially aligning with the national education policy. Besides that, in terms of the defense and security gains, we have already mentioned about the Malib missile, the LMM, the light multi-role missiles, which India is likely to get. Besides that, the electrical propulsion system. And besides that, India and UK are also trying to collaborate on the jet engine, which is crucial part of Project Sudarshan Chakra, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi mentioned on 15th of August from the ramparts of Red Fort.
So will that mean transfer of technology and not just procurement of £350 million missile deal? Ambassador Sajanhar, also, while you're talking about them setting up universities in India, are factories also being set up in India, manufacturing shifting to India? Will that lead to more jobs and more growth in India?
No, absolutely. I think investment is a very important element of this agreement, although there is no upfront sort of, any value that is given like the $100 billion to the 4-country EFTA deal. That is because I think both the economies, as far as EFTA countries are concerned, those are much smaller economies. So they get a much bigger market in India. But as far as the UK is concerned, it is the 6th largest economy. India is the 4th largest economy. So they're comparable in size. So I think both the markets really provide that benefit to them. Definitely, I think investments are coming. That is what Prime Minister Keir Starmer also mentioned.
So, Ambassador Sajanhar, permit me to ask you one question, and especially when we talk about defense manufacturing and transfer of technology and military hardware. Post-Pokhran, when sanctions were imposed on India, India's helicopter and naval aircraft fleet, that was grounded because UK and US had sanctions on India. Should that happen once again, and given the headwinds India-US relations are facing, Are we to worry if we buy critical military hardware either from US or UK, it could face sanctions again in future?
No, I think we have to put the guardrails around us as far as sanctions are concerned, because and also, as the Prime Minister has said, that the biggest problem that we have is of dependency on others. So we have to make ourselves Atmanirbhar, particularly as far as defense is concerned, particularly as far as security is concerned. But that also cannot be done overnight. It cannot
Yes.
be that today you are importing everything and after some time you are fully self-sufficient. So it has to be a process, it has to be a step-by-step operation. And I think that is what really we are trying to do. Increasingly, we are cutting out on items which are importing from outside, manufacturing them at home. And I think this has given us very good results. In addition to that, now we are also into the export market, defense export market.
Yes.
Not only as far as BrahMos are concerned, but I think after Op Sindoor, there'll be a demand. There is a demand for many other items from India going to the other countries.
From the
Last
radars
point
to
of-
the artillery to ammunition, you're absolutely right. I want to quickly bring in Pranay on the aspect of fugitives from law hiding in the United Kingdom. Whether it's Vijay Mallya or Nirav Modi or the Khalistani terrorists or that extremist ideology that may get support in the name of freedom of thought in several Western countries, including in the United Kingdom. That's a major cause for concern. How does that get addressed, Pranay?
Absolutely, this remains a core concern for India, and unfortunately, this issue is long languishing in the UK court and the legal system. India is aware about the fact, and also UK Prime Minister is also aware about the fact that how much of it is a core concern for India. And interestingly, recently the British team was in India to review and assess the Arthur Road jail, which is in Mumbai, where the UK Prime Minister landed and had meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So definitely we can expect a progress as far as this case is concerned, as far as the extradition of economic.
Okay, give me a moment. There's breaking news coming in. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just spoken to US President Donald Trump, and he's just put out a message on social media platform X to say, spoke to my friend President Trump and congratulated him on the success of the historic Gaza peace plan. Also reviewed the good progress achieved in trade negotiations, agreed to stay in close touch over the coming weeks. That's a very, very big statement. Not just the first part. Equally big, if not bigger, is the second part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's message. And for the benefit of our viewers, the Prime Minister said, spoke to my friend President Trump and congratulated him on the success of the historic Gaza peace plan. Also reviewed the progress achieved in trade negotiations. Agreed to stay in close touch over the coming weeks. This is very significant because there are many who've said that perhaps a conversation between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump will help actually break through the deadlock in trade talks. There have been multiple rounds of trade talks between India and the United States of America. Both sides, at one point of time, after 5 rounds of negotiations when it broke down, then there was another meeting, the 6th round happened. Subsequently, it was said perhaps if there is another conversation between the two heads of state and government, there could be a breakthrough. Will we see a breakthrough? Will we see a trade deal also between India and the United States of America that both countries need? It's a win-win for both should it happen, but we'll be tracking that story very closely. That is all I have for you on this special edition of India First. Many thanks for watching. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.